And now it's time for Thomas's comparison driving lounge, starting with the Audi Q4 e-tron with an all-wheel drive version, and then 40 kilometers an hour, and we'll start in dynamic mode. Let's go! At 50 kilometers an hour, and approach the top speed, which is here at about 180 kilometers an hour. So some 112 miles an hour, something like that. Yeah, 184 is the top speed, and still very nice for the handling, but it feels really settled still. It's not too loud, just from a subjective feeling. Very nice from suspension, adaptive suspension, setting it on a stiffer note now, and this already feels like a grown-up SUV indeed, although it's not too tall for US size at least. And one of the very funny things in driving, when I attended the first driving event where we had that video, Q4 e-tron versus the Q4 e-tron Sportback, you can also check out that video, and I went there with the RSQ8, which is clearly more expensive, like double, triple the price, and also has the most powerful combustion engine they offer. And then was getting in this vehicle, and very good spontaneous acceleration and so on. And then I was switching back to the RSQ8 again and driving home. And I was like, is there something happening? So even though, you have the strongest ICE, the strongest combustion engine, here in the electric drive, you just have this very spontaneous acceleration from the get-go because the torque is already there. Here in these situations like a motorway, where you're a little bit faster and so on, then of course the super powerful combustion engine would still have an advantage, But it's really fun and extremely sporty just from the first acceleration pieces, so to speak. So it feels definitely more premium than the ID.4 in the interior, I told you earlier, and that also has an effect on driving. Indeed, you do feel, at some point you might, okay, they share the platform, but you do feel still it's an Audi, Going back to the auto mode, then by the way, in this auto mode at Audi, the car actually picks up how fast are you approaching corners, how aggressive are you with the throttle pedal, and then adapting the driving mode according to that. So for example, when the car is realizing, he's applying some more throttle and he's going more like, left and right and so on. By the way, such a great handling once again. Then the suspension is also set on a stiffer note, for example. So the auto mode is indeed a nice way to go, definitely. The steering, I love the flat bottom here. You can have these different options here though, and it's super precise, so no dead zone area here. And it's just, how you would like to, depict it in a visual way. One more time, from 100 kilometers an hour. Just staying in the auto mode because it doesn't make such a big difference. Still good acceleration already when we add speed. So no problem here when accelerating on the motorway, and such a great handling. It is not a low sitting car, but you have a great feeling still at high speed. And when the car is handling very well here at high speed, once again reaching top speed, that always speaks for the vehicle itself. That's why we do these high speed tests here for you. It's not that I will drive like this every day, and of course we always have to be cautious, but here this is a very rather controlled area where I can do that in a very safe manner. And once again, really impressed by the handling and the overall feeling of that vehicle. So suspension wise, steering wise, chassis wise, everything really top notch, and really looking forward how that plays out with the ID.4 very soon. Recuperation, by the way, I usually set to the B mode, the recuperation mode. It's not the harshest recuperation there is actually, but it is quite notable. I wouldn't exactly say you can fully go for one pedal driving with that. So the Tesla Model Y, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, or the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, all these, a lot of competitors now in this kind of mid-size crossover SUV segment. Driving-wise, the Audi really sets the pace here. And now the VW ID.4 GTX, and we start with some nice winding corners right here. And they use the same platform, kind of the same chassis, and you feel that the platform is really good, very stiff chassis that feels really sporty. The steering is also very good actually. So no dead zone area, good feeling for the vehicle. I found it a little bit sportier in the Audi indeed. But already at slower speeds you feel that, you have some more noises coming from the car somewhere actually. So for example here in this case from the panoramic roof, we didn't have that on the Audi. Now acceleration from standstill and cornering. Plop, that's, was almost 60, but here we have to stop at 50. Really smooth out, the steering is not moving at all, so very good traction again from the all-wheel drive. Very smooth but spontaneous acceleration. The acceleration figures are absolutely comparable once again, of course, because they have the same drivetrain mounted right there. And when you lift the throttle here in the B mode, you have a strong recuperation, but as I said, not as strong as you would say. This is like a full one-pedal driving. Let's say it comes close to one pedal driving, and if I would go here to the D mode, then I lift my foot off the throttle, car is just rolling. Quite efficient indeed, and in a way you can argue pro and con, depends on. The B mode is somewhat better because you lift your foot off the throttle and you immediately start decelerating, and that is maybe a safety thing as well. But you have to get used to it, especially that you don't put too much G-forces on your passengers, for example. So then the D mode can be something to get used to it. However, if you think about combustion engine vehicles, they also have engine brakes, so you have some deceleration when you lift off your foot off the throttle. And that's not the same thing in a D here. So in D here, there's nothing. It's just rolling, like in the sailing mode with the ICE. And that can be, when you're going into a corner, also quite unusual. So I would rather go for the B mode and then learn to lift your foot off the throttle in a more gentle way, especially when you're driving together with passengers. Once again here, good handling. As for the DCC, dynamic chassis control, you have the mode button right there, and then you can put in that sport mode, for example. When you have the optional DCC, then also, once again, the suspension is set according to that. So if you kind of close your eyes and feel the vehicle, feel the platform, the cars are not that different as for the main hardware. Indeed, you can feel that. And when someone tells you, yeah, they are on the same platform, you think, like, yeah, I can feel that. That somehow works. However, especially from the user interface, that is applied while driving. With the Audi, I had hard buttons for the cruise control, for example. I had these climate buttons, not these temperature sliders right there. The software in the Audi is way better. Yeah, from that handling, indeed, that is more comparable indeed, and this car handles very, very well, and it drives really also very, very good. So once again, hardware-wise, definitely very good. All UI, software-wise, yeah, definitely something to improve here, or much to improve here in the ID.4, and that is, it is just connected also to the driving feeling, not from a basic sense, but definitely also accounts for the whole driving experience. Now let's head on to the motorway. So now we go here once again to the sport mode, and also start from 40 kilometers an hour. Let some cars pass and we can safely have passage. So here we go, and now one more. Let's go. Good and comparable acceleration, definitely. Same drivetrain, but yeah, that was almost the top speed, 181 kilometers an hour. Let's see when the GLE there is making way, if we can get some more top speed right there. Here, of course, in the latter stages, not so much is happening. So now we're approaching top speed, and you feel it, like the noise insulation is such a difference here. Now once again, 184 kilometers an hour. There we go. The car itself, a little bit more nervous as for suspension. Noise level way higher than in the Q4 e-tron, so massive difference. Wouldn't have guessed that the difference is so massive. Of course, here we don't have the fixed roof. That might be something, definitely, but yeah, that overall feeling from the noise dampening, that's very interesting. Really surprising to me. I mean, at normal speeds like 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, it's reasonably silent, definitely. But the Audi is way better. So didn't expect such a difference there. So the Audi definitely feels top notch, like a premium car. Like, hey, there's not much you can do better in that respect. But here, it doesn't feel like a premium vehicle, So that's the difference. The UI together with the noise insulation and so on. But still, it is stable. Also at high speed driving, feels good still, but not as good as the Audi. That's clear. Well, which one will I take home today? Sometimes in these comparison episodes, it's really tough to decide. Today, it is rather not hard to decide. The clear winner for today is the Audi Q4 e-tron. Well, as for the exterior design, that's maybe just a personal preference. I just like the Q4 e-tron better. It has a more modern look, actually just more spectacular. And the ID.4 is a little bit, from this retro design, but I think then again not retro enough in a way. Do you know what I mean? But that's maybe personal preference. But on the interior, clearly also that the user interface is so much better than the Audi. Manual climate knob, a better software that's actually running all the time and is easy to control. Also better knobs on the steering wheel, so much easier to control. And the digital instruments, of course, in a proper way, so way better in the Audi. In the ID.4, here's still problems with the software. The user interface is just not good at all. That's the problem. The main chassis here, the same, is very good. Also great handling with the ID.4 GTX. So the hardware and also the range, both at some 400 kilometers or 250 miles, that's not the biggest difference in there. However, noise insulation, way better again with the Audi. It's just a more silent vehicle, especially at higher speeds. When you're driving normal cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, not such a huge difference. But when you're going way faster, there's huge difference with the Audi. Not sure if this one will be a big effect in your market, but you feel that just the noise deadening here and the overall handling, suspension settings and so on, is just a little bit more tuned, so to speak, in the Audi. You feel they paid more effort to it, where they have more cost savings with the ID.4. Well, then there's the price difference. It depends. If you take the currently available rear-wheel drive models in the US, there's hardly any price difference at all if you don't spec so much more in the car. Of course, the Audi leaves more stuff to spec, so you have more extra still with the Audi, and then it gets more expensive. But if you pick a reasonable spec with both, you might end up about like a 5,000 euros or dollars price difference. Yeah, that can be a huge thing already, of course, so it depends. When you rather go base spec, not such a difference, definitely always go for the Audi. When there's maybe like special offerings from the dealer or special leasing rates, and you end up that the ID.4 is half the price of the Audi, yeah, then you have to start thinking again. But if you can hold the extra price for the Audi somewhat in an acceptable way, then clearly the Audi Q4 e-tron is the way to go. What about the competitors? Well, the Ioniq 5, for example, we also have a video of that, or the Tesla Model Y, strong competitors, very interesting. Driving-wise, the Audi Q4 e-tron is probably the best in the mid-size EV SUV segment. The other competitors also have their advantages you should check out right now.